Today we're going to learn how to use the Pythagorean theorem to find the missing side of a right triangle. So here's our key concept. In any right triangle, if you square the leg of the length and Today we're going to talk about how to use the Pythagorean theorem to find the missing side of a right triangle. Pythagorean's theorem is only used in right triangles. You'll need to remember that for this lesson. So here's our key concept we want to write in our notes. And that is, in any right triangle, if you square the length of the legs and add them, you will get the length of the hypotenuse squared. Now, what does that mean? Well, first of all, let's identify the legs and the hypotenuse. If we think this is a right triangle, the diagonal part is called the hypotenuse. And that's always the one opposite the right angle. The other two are called legs. And just remember, there's two of them just like you have two legs. And they're the ones that attach to the right angle. Pythagoras found that if I took the length of this side and the length of this side, so if I took the length of one leg, which is A, and I square it, then I add to it the length of the other leg and square it, it equals the length of the hypotenuse squared. So we can use Pythagorean's theorem to find the length of one side if you know the length of the other. So let's look at this a little closer. So Pythagorean's theorem can be used to find the length of the missing side. So now let's find a missing side. So in this example, we have a hypotenuse that's missing. The diagonal is missing. That's what we're looking for. So if you remember, the hypotenuse is C. So we always start off with Pythagorean's theorem, which is a squared plus b squared equals c squared. C is your hypotenuse. That's what I always fill in first, and that's my unknown. And now it doesn't matter which one you pick for a squared or b squared. You could pick 5 or 12. So I'm going to put 5 squared plus 12 squared in, and that's going to equal c squared. Now I'm just going, at this point, it's just doing the math. So 5 squared is 25, 12 squared is 144, equals c squared. 25 plus 144 is 169, and that equals c squared. Now I have to find out what c equals. So the opposite of squaring the number is taking the square root. So if I take the square root of 169 and type it in my calculator, I get 13. That equals C, or my hypotenuse. Now, you should check to make sure that your hypotenuse, or your diagonal, is always the largest side. That's a trick to remember. So I have 5, 12, and 13 is my largest side. Now, let's look at the next example. We want to find the length of the hypotenuse of a right triangle with legs of 12 centimeters and 16 centimeters. So I'm going to draw my triangle. And my legs, which are the sides that are attached to the right angle, are 12 centimeters and 16 centimeters. So I plug this into Pythagorean's theorem, which is a squared plus b squared equals c squared. A is 12, or b, it doesn't matter. Either leg is fine. And then c is my hypotenuse. So I'm going to put in 12 squared for A, B is 16 squared equals C squared. So now I'm going to square my numbers, and I know that 12 squared is 144, and 16 squared is 256, and I don't know what C squared is. Now, I add 256 and 144, and I get 400 equals c squared. Then I take the square root of 400, and I get c equals 20 centimeters. Now, let's drop back and think about what we've done. We always take the legs and we plug them in for a and b, and then c is our hypotenuse. What you want to remember to do is once you plug it in and add them, don't forget to take the square root. Everybody forgets that. Now, here's a problem that's more like a problem you will find on a test. It says a bridge has 22 feet horizontal members and 25 feet vertical members. Horizontal means it's going like the horizon. Vertical means it's going up and down. Find the length of each diagonal to the nearest foot. Well, I'm not sure what a member of a bridge is, but I know if I'm going across 22 feet horizontally and 25 feet vertically, and I'm looking for the horizontal measurement, I know I'm using a right triangle. So again, we're going to plug in a squared plus b squared equals c squared. A and b are my legs, so I have 25 squared plus 22 squared equals c squared. Then I take 25 squared, which I don't have memorized, so I'm going to plug that in the calculator, and I get 625. Then I take 22 squared, again, not one I have memorized, plug it in the calculator, I get 484, and that equals c squared. Now, I'm going to add 625 plus 484, and I get 1,109. Don't forget to take the square root, especially if you look at your problem and you're like, that is a really big number. And that comes out to a decimal, and that's okay. C is approximately 33 feet. And it says round to the nearest foot, so that's why we don't have a decimal in our answer. Now, it's your turn. So what I want you to do is I want you to try the problem, pause the video and try the problem, then hit play and follow along with the explanation to see if you got it right. So take a moment now, pause the video, and then complete the problem. Okay, you were to find the hypotenuse of a right triangle whose legs were 6 and 8 feet. You should have gotten 10 feet. Let's look at it. We have two legs. One leg is 6 feet, one leg is 8 feet, and we're looking for the missing hypotenuse. My right triangle doesn't look very right. So I'm going to plug in my Pythagorean theorem here. A squared plus b squared equals c squared. A is 6, so that's 6 squared. B is 8, so that's 8 squared. And I'm looking for c. Square them, you get 36 plus 64 equals c squared. Add those together, you get 100 equals c squared. Take the square root, and you get c equals 10 feet. Okay, again, you should pause the video, complete the problem, and then check your work. Okay, it says a wheelchair ramp that leads to an apartment building doorway is 5 feet above the ground. So if I can think of a ramp, any kind of ramp kind of goes up. And if it's 5 feet above the ground, that means this measurement must be 5 feet. The horizontal meaning going across, distance from the entrance to the end of the ramp, so this is the horizontal distance, is 16 feet. What is the length of the ramp? So I'm looking for the hypotenuse. So your answer should be 17 feet. Let's see how we got that. We always start off with a squared plus b squared equals c squared. A is 5, b is 16, and c we don't know. 5 squared is 25. 16 squared is not one that I have memorized, so I'm going to use my calculator, and I get 256 equals c squared. Now it's simple math. We just add it at this point, and we get 281 equals c squared. Then take the square root of 281, and it says round to the nearest foot. So I type in 281 and round to the nearest foot, and I should get close to 17. I get 16.7, which rounds to approximately 17 feet. Now, what have we learned? First of all, we learned Pythagorean's theorem. A squared plus b squared equals c squared. Sorry. We know A and B are legs. C is the hypotenuse. And we learned how to find the missing hypotenuse.